Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's Ambitious Leader Chat. This week we will be talking about purpose. If you're new to this chat, what we're going to do, what this is about, is every other week on our social media we launch a new theme. And then the following week we pick out one or a couple of your questions that you sent to us via either direct message or that you commented in our social media. And then we talk about that relating to the theme. So this week we decided to talk about purpose. Now, because we're talking about that subject, I will be taking a bit of a step back and I will be facilitating the conversation while Dennis, who is the expert here at the Happiness Factory on purpose, will be delivering most of the content. So Dennis, you're an expert on purpose. You've been working with your customers, your clients on this for over 10 years. Can you tell us a little bit more? How did you become an expert? What is this about?
Well, it's always hard to say of yourself that you're an expert in a certain area. But indeed, I've guided many clients in their search of finding their purpose. And because it's more than 10 years that I'm doing or at least answering or helping to find them such questions, that I came up with a very detailed process on which steps that you need to take and how you need to go from that initial question, what is my purpose, or why is the purpose even important, to eventually the point where you know what it is and where you can really live it to the fullest.
Okay. All right. So, well, of course, when you talk about purpose, it's very broad. You can find a lot on the internet about purpose as well, about finding your why. Now, I think one of the interesting questions that were asked is, okay, once you have found your purpose or think you have found your purpose, does this actually solve everything? And does it mean that it's a straight staircase to heaven? What are your ideas about that?
That would be very easy. If it was that, if that was the case, it would be a dream for everybody. But unfortunately, it is not that case. The search of your purpose is not so easy search. It's something you have to go through. It takes a lot of time to find your real purpose. And once you've found it, then not all problems are solved, of course. Your purpose can be, in many cases it is, a source of inspiration, a source of energy, something that, well, sometimes I say it like that, it's the thing that gets you out of your bed each morning. So that gives a lot of drive, but at the same time, a purpose in many cases is also something very big to work on. And because it's something very big, you can get a bit overwhelmed from time to time, or perhaps even a bit exhausted by it.
Okay, but when I hear you say it's something that drives you, it also reminds me of goals. So what's the difference between a goal and your purpose?
A goal for me is something that has a very clear need behind it. You want to reach that goal because of something. For example, in a business, you're putting a goal on your yearly turnover, and it's very clear you need that turnover, because if you don't have that turnover, you can't pay the bills. A purpose is from a completely different level. And the need that is behind it is also from a completely different level. Of course, there is a need, because otherwise you wouldn't be driven towards your purpose or towards that big thing that you want to have. But it's not something that you really need on a short-term basis. Like in a goal, well, I need this because otherwise the next steps are not an option. A purpose is much more something that drives you. It's also based on energy, it's based on passion. And of course you want it, but you don't want it because it will bring you something. No, you want it because you truly and deeply believe in it.
Okay, very interesting. But then do you believe that a purpose can also change because you say that it's so much bigger than just a goal? Is it then something that can change? And how often can it change?
It can definitely change. We all change constantly. So depending on the things that happen in our life, well, of course, your purpose can change. But because it is something that drives you, and because it's really on a long-term basis, something that you want to see happening in the world, for example, or for yourself. But of course, if very big things happen in your life and you see the world a little bit different, then of course it can also happen that your purpose will shift. But I like to call it in that way, or I like to say it in that way, that it's shifting instead of changing. Because it's not something that on day one you see this as your purpose and then X amount of time later you suddenly see something else.
So it evolves more.
It evolves, it's a slow shift because of things happening in your life. It's the path that you are walking, it's the path that you are taking, and it all has an influence on yourself, it all has an influence on how you see the world, on how you experience things, and then perhaps it's even more like fine-tuning your purpose.
But then is it not possible that in some way your purpose really shifts or changes because of something very big happening? Or is it then that you didn't really find your purpose before, or weren't busy with your true purpose before?
It can happen, of course, that indeed it changes quite dramatically. But then in many cases it will also be, or the source of that big change will also be something very dramatic in your life.
Yeah, exactly.
For example, if you are a parent and suddenly you lose a child, well, that's a very big thing. I can imagine that then at that moment suddenly your purpose in life is shifted. Or really changed.
Okay.
But I wasn't sure what the second thing was that you said.
Well, one of the things that I was thinking about was, but you already answered my question, is what would make that a sudden shift can take place? But I think you already answered that.
And that's, of course, that's that sudden change, that sudden shift. If really nothing dramatic happens, then it's more like we said before, it's more an evolution, because you live your life, you experience things, and based on all those experiences you can fine-tune your purpose. And now I remember the second thing that you said was, can it be that you thought your purpose, but that there's something else which is your main purpose? Of course, that can also happen, that there is a purpose behind the purpose or something. But again, that is something that you will discover over time. You need those experiences. You need to find out for yourself what is really important here for me. What is the thing that I really like to do, or that I really want to do. Even to that extent that you can say, well, I want to work on this, even if upfront I already know that it should fail.
Could fail, perhaps, but then do you believe, because I think most people realize, if they don't, you also have a podcast that will be coming up about purpose. I think most people know for themselves that purpose and finding your why, that's very important to live your life.
I hope they do. And if they don't know why it's important, then there are so many resources to find out why a purpose is important, and why indeed finding your why is important. And if you have all that very clear on your mind, then you can start living your life in a different way. But
still, I think a lot of people realize it's important, but a lot of people haven't found their purpose yet. Maybe it's not something that they're busy with, or maybe they are very reflective, but in some way haven't found the real thing to drive them. How do you find your purpose?
Well, like I already said, it's a hard thing to do. And as I already mentioned, you need experiences. the more you experience in life, the clearer it becomes for you what is important and what is not important. And if you truly know what is important for you, then you can also start doing more of that.
Okay.
So it's, for me, really that combination of experiences and really going after those experiences and building those experiences, and at the other hand, a very strong reflection for yourself.
Okay.
So the ability to reflect on your own experiences. What does it do with me if I take up A or B, or if I do it in this way, or if I do it in that way, and then reflect upon it and really see for yourself, yeah, what does it do with me? How do I get triggered by it? And if you see things happening in the world, it can mean a lot, and especially those things that give you some sort of an emotional reaction. There's always a trigger or a line to something that is really deep inside yourself that can be very, very important for you. And it can even be a movie that you're looking at, or a piece of music that you're listening to. And if it drives your emotions, then you know, here is something that I need to dig in deeper, because this is something, it tells me something about myself.
Okay, but it might be that you're a very reflective person, that you've gone through a number of things, that in some way you know what is important to you, or that you are very often thinking about what you would like to do, what you would like to bring to the world, that you know what your main values are, for example. But still, I mean, if you would ask that person, what is your true purpose? I mean, I'm not sure if they would be able to answer, or if it's something that maybe is not too generic, and that in some way is a drive, but doesn't give them enough drive to really, live that way. How?
Well, it needs to be generic,
Okay.
but at the same time very specific, and that's the thing where it gets complicated.
Yeah.
Because many people, they think they have found their purpose, and they say, well, I want to contribute, I want to change the world.
Well, exactly.
Things like that.
Yeah.
Which is nice, which is fine, but how do you do that? What do you do on a daily basis to contribute? What do you do on a daily basis to change the world? And if you cannot define that, then you're a bit lost again. Because you know, and you can get up in the morning and be very motivated. I'm going to change the world today. And then you step out of bed and you say, okay, but what's my first step here?
So is it then about what's my first step, or is it more about linking what you're doing every day, every week to that purpose?
Well, in the process that I developed with my clients to come through that purpose, we start with those experiences. Like I said, really diving deep into yourself to know what is important and what is not important for me. And those things that are really important, imagine that you can live by those things on a daily basis. Then you are actually projecting your best way of living your life. By fully living your life by those things that are for 100% important to you and nothing else.
Okay.
In reality, that's probably not an option, of course, but just make that projection, make that idea, make that dream. That makes it very big. But then if you have that image, then we can narrow it down again. And then we can make it very specific to even to a being statement. Who do you need to be able to live like that? And if you know who you need to be, then you also know what you need to do. And it's that combination of both that is very important to me, that it all starts very deep inside yourself, that you know what is important based on your experiences, based on your values, etc., etc. that you then have a very clear image of what is it that I want my optimal life to look like, and then translate it back into every small detail of your life. And it should even be coming back in, for example, your calendar.
Sorry.
Every element that is in your calendar should be linked in some way to that big purpose.
Okay. That sounds like a lot of work and a lot of thinking.
Indeed, it is. It is. If I look to the programs I do with my clients in finding that purpose, it are programs of 3 to 6 months. So it takes a lot of time to find that purpose and to really translate it into every aspect of your life.
Okay.
Because the analysis as such, it's not that difficult. Most of the people know what is important for them. Most of the people can in some way formulate it that they know, this is how I want to live my life and this is my most ideal life. But then really making that implementation in every small detail of it, that's a hard thing to do. And that's of course also our reason of existence. We have that Ambitious Leader program, and in that Ambitious Leader program, that purpose finding thing is a big part of that program. So if they are our audience, if everybody is interested to really dive into it and to really get started with it, I would say, look at the program. Perhaps it can help you. And to already get started with it, start with experimentation. Start exploring for yourself. Try things you've never done before, and make that reflection upon it. Reflect on what does it do with you if you try something that you've never done before. Go out on bungee jumping or something, and see whether you like it. And if you absolutely don't like it, then you've done a very good experiment. If you do like it, then dive deeper and look at it. What is it exactly that you like? Is it purely that bungee jumping? Is it that being outdoors? Is it that adrenaline rush? There are so many questions you can ask on every experience to find out more about yourself, and then step into that.
I think that's a very good first step, but that we're gonna have to round it up here, because I don't know if we're gonna be within our time limit that we set for ourselves. But it was very interesting to hear all of these things. So that was it for this week. Now, next week we'll be launching a new theme that we will be discussing in 2 weeks. So on all of our social media channels, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, you'll be able to find our next theme in a couple of days. We look forward to hearing all of your questions, so either DM us or just add something in the comments. And we look forward to reaching out to you in 2 weeks about that new theme then.
Absolutely.
So thank you very much, and see you soon.
And keep experimenting.
Absolutely. Bye.